How do you know it's going? It's a whole new computer. Okay.
Because it's square.
I guess I'm just going to trust the process.
It's a square, not a yeah.
Hey, everybody.
We're on.
A little moment of,
New computer.
Flyleaf Talks About Stuff. It is Flyleaf Talks About Stuff. Wednesday, we get to talk about things that we want to talk about, and we have a great topic that we learned.
We do. We were in training.
Which we learned, but yet we already knew.
Right.
And you probably know it too, because everybody kind of knows it. It just has a name.
And it actually had a mind blow.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like a thread for me that made things make sense and gave name to things I knew, which was a really cool thing for me.
Yeah. So it's called the Zygernick Effect.
Zygernick.
Effect.
I can't say that word, so I will not.
Zygernick.
But Ali, why don't you tell everybody where that came from?
Oh my gosh, the origin stories. I love origin stories for cool things. So, I don't know if it was named after the person who noticed it.
Yes, it was.
Mm-hmm.
The person who noticed it? Okay,
yep.
so
she was a psychology student in 1922 in France.
Okay,
Ali.
Thanks, Ali. So the psychology student in 1922 in France.
Bluma Zygernick is her name.
Bluma?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fantastic name.
I know.
Somebody's going to name their kid that in the next 5 years.
Shout out to past, present, and future Blumas, because you've got a bomb name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Zygernick.
So she was at a cafe or a restaurant, and she noticed that the waitresses were taking these multi-person complex orders without writing anything down. They'd go put it in correctly, bring out the food, move on to the next thing, and she was like, yo, how are they doing that so perfectly? So she asked, how did you remember that? And they're like, I don't know, I just do. And then she said, well, what did they order? And she's like, I don't know. Because as soon as that whole task was completed, her brain forgot about it. Is that pretty much it?
That's it?
Yeah, and as long as there was an open task,
Mm-hmm.
then her brain had to remember it, and her brain couldn't forget it.
Right.
Until it was closed.
Mm-hmm. So what this reminds me of is a couple years ago, you and I did a trauma training online.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was for one of our EMDR certifications, and he was talking about how our brain has a natural propensity to hold on to the negative as a way of self-protection.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But it doubles down on negative memories because we don't need the good ones.
Right.
We only remember the great good ones, but the really hard ones we hold on to.
Right.
But how does this affect, and just so that people understand where we're coming from, how does this affect, link in with that we hold on to those bad things?
The tabs are open.
Right.
It's still something that's so present that I can't put it down until it's resolved in a way that is completely resolved.
Yeah.
We have the natural propensity to mull over and ruminate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I love that word.
Mm-hmm.
Over what's not finished.
Mm-hmm.
So, like unrequited love.
Right.
Something that happened 20 years ago, you still fantasize and romanticize about what could have been.
Right.
Because it wasn't really closed in a way that was a closed way. It was, I visualize loops that aren't shut all the way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what we do for a living is actually help people close loops.
100.
And that's a beautiful way to put it. The other thing about this effect that I think was really cool is we were talking about studying and why studying over several days, you retain the information, but if you study in one night and dump it, you don't remember it. And part of it is because that task is complete in one day and you're not remembering it. You're getting it in there and you dump it on a test and then your brain moves on because that task is completed.
Mm-hmm.
But if you leave it open over several days, then you're actually retaining it for the next day, and that's how you actually learn because your brain will go over it again and again until you've taken the test and finished the task, but by then it's now part of your memory.
Right.
Which is really fascinating for me.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about in our training and then just us individually collectively together, about that explains triggering.
Yes, it does. Tell me how.
Well, if a partner who has been betrayed is having a hard everything, she or he are still trying to make sense of how did this happen?
Right.
And how do I begin to feel safe? And until I have all of the answers, everything feels heightened.
Right.
Yep.
And that's why partners who've been betrayed are like detectives. And they search for everything, and they search and search and search to make sense of something that may not make sense to them. And so they're better than any detective or, FBI agent.
CIA.
Partners who've been betrayed will put together some junk that just, wow. your phone bill says this, and on the calendar you were here, and I checked your work calendar and you were here.
And this is what you told me.
I am telling you that it is just phenomenal, the amount of energy that is poured into trying to close that loop.
Understandably so.
Absolutely, because it's an open loop.
Right.
Or when we say I have so much to do tomorrow that I can't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
That's your mind not wanting that loop isn't closed. And until those tasks are done, then your mind can move on to the next one.
Right.
It's just, to me, it's just has made sense out of so much stuff. It brings so much stuff, like I said, it's like a thread that pulls everything together. It ties it all together beautifully.
And we're just talking about thoughts, because like the next example that he gave, Kevin Skinner was our trainer, and he's fantastic. He was talking about that bear 339. Like this, do you remember the bear? He talked about a bear.
Yeah.
Like,
But wasn't he
the
talking
polar
about
bear.
moving
It was
into
a brown
like
bear.
from freeze, right? Like he needed to complete the
He
cycle
needed to
of
complete
survival.
it. Yeah. So
Yeah,
like, the
yeah,
example
yeah.
he gave with this bear was running through the woods. They needed to dart the bear with a tranquilizer to be able to like do health services on the bear. And when the bear got darted, went down, they left it alone after a while, but when it woke up, the question he posed to us was, what did the bear do? And so I thought the bear went back to doing bear things, because like it was done.
Bear's got a bear.
Bear's got a bear, right? The correct answer to that question was the bear got up and kept running because physiologically he needed to complete
That
loop,
cycle.
right?
Right.
Mhm.
So even if we in our best efforts try to like say, I'm not going to think about this right now, but I still feel my body just activated, we're
Right.
trying to close the loop in a different way.
Right.
Body up loop closure versus top down loop closure.
Right.
Right.
And we talk a lot. I think Peter Levine talks about that in a different way, but he says the same thing, where he talks about how our bodies, like in the wild, animals, their bodies know how to regulate. Like they just finish the loops. They finish the loops. They don't have cognitive thought about finishing the loops. They don't have PTSD because they don't think about what they could have, should have
They
done.
shudder and go on.
And they shake it out. And like they talk about how cats will fall, and when they're walking away, they're like shaking off all of that excess energy as they walk away. That's it, like them completing all of that loop. But as humans, we ground, right? We cut the loop off. We don't let it go. We say stop it, and we end up with this excess energy in the form of this neurochemicals that are, the cortisone and the dopamine or whatever is getting shot up through us when we're activated. We end up with this excess of it in our bodies that lives in our fascia, in our bodies, and without closing that loop and doing that energy body work and that movement in your body, it's just going to live there.
Right.
And so what we do is we do that with brain spotting, with EMDR, with ART therapy, with heart math, all of the things that we do, we help close that loop and move those chemicals and that energy out of the body.
Because humans, we like to kick it up into the prefrontal, and why did this happen? Why does it keep happening? What does this mean? What did I do? What could I have done differently? Like, then all of the focus becomes up here.
Yeah.
And then if maintained energy, that could lead to, chronic fatigue, any of the somatic experiencing stuff that we can get through depression and anxiety and all of that.
Right, and we talked, I think it was last week, where we talked about how when your body stays activated, it affects your digestive system. And would you say it's from the back of your mouth to the other end?
Yep.
That is your digestive system, and it is impacted when all of that excess stuff is living in your body. So closing that loop physiologically is as important as closing that loop,
I think we all
cognitively.
seek it though. I mean, how many people have you like interacted with that just say, I'm looking for closure, We're literally trying to close things out in a way that we tie things up in a way that makes sense.
Right.
In our brains, in our bodies, in our relationships.
Or people that instead of relaxing their bodies when they're activated, they go work out.
Right.
They actually activate their bodies.
Right.
They'll go for a run, they'll go work out, they'll push really hard, they'll exhaust themselves physically, and they'll feel better mentally. So I think that we all have these ways that we kind of don't know, but we know how to do. Our body knows what it needs. And if we listen to our bodies, then we can kind of sort some of that stuff out. But what we do is neurologically and physiologically, we close those loops for people, and that's our job. And it's a beautiful thing.
It is funny how we, like you had said that whole like term of I'm looking for closure, and how many little, like English, is it an idiom or little sayings that we use that are saying the same thing, like trying to make sense of something, I need to understand, help me break this down.
Right.
Which is all about closing loops.
People will even come in and say, my body is just shaking right now. Right. Or they'll talk about this low vibration that they always have in their body, and that's all that chemical stuff.
Yeah.
that's just shoved down. And mindfulness, by the way, is a beautiful thing because it gets our body calm, but it doesn't get the stuff out.
Right.
It just calms it down.
Right.
So we have to, and what we do here is we get it out.
Yep.
And meditation grows new neural pathways.
Yes, it does.
Mm.
And it's absolutely a beautiful thing. And you can do a lot of good with that too.
So collectively, Bluma, Zygernick, and your offspring, we salute you.
We salute you, Bluma.
I love that name.
And next time you're on Jeopardy and you get the question right because of Bluma's Zygernick, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
She was saying coffee come out of her nose.
That could be. It could be. You never know.
A great
You never
question.
know. That
Or
would
be
be
a good
question.
Jeopardy question.
Or SAT
If it was Alex Trebek, he passed away, bless your soul. I don't know who's doing it now, but there's a good question for you
That's
to
a good
use.
question.
Is it Peyton Manning doing it?
Oh, the football player?
Peyton Manning?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, actually, isn't it the girl who played?
Sheldon's person.
No, what's her name?
Maya Bialik.
Yeah.
I like her.
Blossom, Bluma.
Oh, I love her.
And now we've come full circle.
Now
We are here. Okay, Allie.
There you go.
Where can they find us?
You can find us watching Jeopardy, but you can also find us in our office in Davidson, North Carolina, but we're licensed to practice in North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Hawaii. So if you live anywhere, we can happily work doing telehealth with some of these same modalities, so yay. Online, you can find us on our website, www.flyleafcounseling.com. We're also on Facebook, same name, Instagram, flyleaf_counseling, and then where else? YouTube, Flyleaf Counseling.
Yep. All right. Well, we'll see you at. Oh, you have something to say.
No, I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay, you opened your mouth like, huh?
I might have said something, or I might have wanted to take a sip of coffee. I don't remember. Apparently, my loop was done.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.